Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the second part of this special edition of Real Talk, talking about death and the process of registering and burying our loved ones when they pass away. As I said at the beginning of the program, we've been used to a practice over the last 10-15 years, in particular where somebody passes away, there's a process that we have to go through, either at home, in the community, or in the hospital. And you go, the doctor's issues a death certificate, they pass it on to the registrar will say, yes, no problem, we accept the cause of death, I'll give you a certificate to go and bury them, head and bury them. Now they've introduced this new concept of medical examiner who are going to be scrutinizing each and every death, regardless of whether you're Asian, non-Asian, Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian or not. Every death is going to be scrutinized by the medical examiner. And that is now going to build in an unnecessary, in many people's eyes, bureaucratic delay in once somebody passing away and actually being buried. And Islam, as we know, we are obliged to try and make sure that we bury our loved ones as soon as possible. So today I've got a very dear friend and somebody who's an expert who has been enormously involved in the whole bereavement and sort of the service of providing death processing and also undertaking facilities as well to the Muslim community. As I said, he's been doing this with a number of people, lots of volunteers in his group throughout the whole of the COVID period, before that as well, and have done that throughout the whole of the country as well. So Javed has been explaining what this new process is likely to be, or it is going to be, and how it's going to affect us moving forward. And he's already said that there's a huge potential that it's going to have an inbuilt delay factor, which is going to put a huge strain on families. Families have lost a loved one, they're grieving, they want to see their loved ones buried as soon as possible, because they don't want to see any delays in that, any mechanism. But this process, as Javed says, is going to build in some delays unnecessarily. So all this, Javed, as you explained, is going to impact all the families, right? And if you want to share any of your thoughts, it's 01274-214-299, which is the number that will appear on your screen. And inshallah, we'll come back to this, because this is a subject that's not going to sort of go away and over and done with in one day or in one program. So we'll come back to this again. No problem. But I mean, in addition to all this, the new medical examiners that they're bringing in, the number of people who are going to be responsible for this work, it's not a big deal of people, is it?
No, the resource is finite.
Yes.
Finite in the sense that, I'll give you an example. One trust, they're supposed to have 13 medical examiners,
right?
But you only have one on most days working during the weekdays.
Right.
And the weekend,
just one person.
One person.
And they're going to be responsible going through all the deaths that occur
in the community,
that community
and the hospitals.
Right.
They ultimately are going to be responsible for all of them, but there's only one working. And and that's factual.
Goodness.
That's factual.
Mm-hmm.
But the even bigger concern is when it comes to the weekend, we're talking about, these medical examiners working 3 hours.
Only 3 hours.
Only 3 hours. And they don't have the resource or the finances to cover any more hours. But that's a big concern. Why is it a big concern? I'll give you an example. Within this trial, we had one death in one particular trust. Now, the medical examiners were working 9 till 12.
At the weekend?
At the weekend. This was on a Sunday.
Right.
The registrars were only opening between 9 and 10.
All right.
Okay? So the medical examiners had not even got round to dealing with the death that happened the night before. We had to plead with the registrars to hold the office open. Right. Despite the fact they finish at 10, they held the office open in the sense they worked, extra hour.
Overtime, yeah.
But they weren't obliged to, because their contractual hours was 9 to 10, 1 hour. So this is the big concern. And that was only one death that weekend. Had we had a number of deaths from the community, well as the hospitals and from other towns, because remember, this trust only doesn't cover one town, it covers several towns. So these are real concerns, the backlog of how we deal with this at the weekends, you know, and also the other concerns are GPs. 51% probability at this moment in time. You know, I'm not criticizing GPs, but GPs at times are reluctant to issue a cause of death. And if they do issue a cause of death, they don't always have access to the portal where you're supposed to send it electronically to the registrars.
Right.
So at the moment, in many instances, we are physically picking up the cause of death, the MCCD form,
The actual physical certificate.
right, and taking it to the registrars. Now,
That's if they're open.
That's if they're open.
Yeah.
So this ME element, you know, is not going to allow them to issue that MCCD straight away. Until the ME agrees it, it will be the ME that then finally sends it to the registrar. So we have to be, you know, waiting for the ME. And at the moment, that process is slow, but also at the same time, that communication, where we normally get communications from the cemeteries, from the registrars, from the coroners, we don't have that relationship, those contact
The
numbers.
one angle that we haven't sort of explained to our viewers is they can go through all the first three processes. Somebody passes away, the GP or the hospital issues a death certificate, or, you know, pass it on to the registrar. Registrar sends it to the ME. ME says yes, fine. But then you've got the burial certificate or the slot in the cemetery that you need to book, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the conversation when we started, was we are confident with what's been happening historically to say, you know, we can hang our hat that actually we can do the burial this afternoon.
Yeah.
We're not confident anymore because we're in the hands of the MEs, and the MEs are not giving us timelines. They're not saying, you know, you'll have you know, we'll give you a cause of death in an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And also, you know, we're finding our feet with them because the communication isn't great at this moment in time. And that's not from our side, from the fact that if there's only ever one ME and he's dealing with all this, he hasn't got time to be picking up the phone and giving us an update.
Do we know roughly, I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. Just take Bradford as a region, which is where we are at the moment. Do you know roughly how many deaths occur on a day-to-day basis in Bradford?
Well, it can vary. I mean, during COVID was obviously
COVID was
unprecedented.
Yes,
but you know, I'm on the Bradford group. Obviously, I see the number of deaths that happen. There's days where they've got 5-6 deaths.
Oh my goodness!
And there's days where they've got 2-3 deaths. But it's a fairly busy area, locality, because of the Muslims, the number of demographic of Muslims that are living in Bradford. But that's not just unique to Bradford.
I'm talking about all deaths, you know, from all communities.
Oh no, this is just Muslim.
Yeah. So if the ME has to deal with 15, 20 deaths from everyone, right, whoever lives here, well, that's going to be really, really difficult for.
It's going to be extremely difficult. I mean, weekdays.
It's impossible.
Well, let's face it. Already there's a backlog in this normal process from the weekend.
Right. Yes.
Because obviously, you know, on Saturday and Sunday, the process isn't the same. The offices aren't open. So currently we already see a backlog from the weekend. Yeah. But now with the MEs being introduced and all deaths, so when you come back on Monday morning, it's going to be phenomenal. You're just going to be dealing with backlog of issues, be it Muslim, be it non-Muslim, whatever.
Exactly,
But even though they're going to prioritize the Muslim and the Jewish community, it's going to adversely affect all communities. And what we don't want to find is there's resentment from non-faith and other Christian Catholic communities because their MEs aren't fully resourced, they're not in place, and they're saying they're dealing with faith deaths.
The potential of saying that, you know, the Muslim community or the non-white community getting preferential treatment.
Absolutely.
Which will be ammunition to the extreme right wing and those who hate us already anyway.
Absolutely. And these are the concerns. These are real concerns. And, you know, for sure the ME hierarchy, the senior management already know that the resource that's in place currently isn't adequate. And that's
this resourcing comes from the central government, doesn't it?
It does. It comes from the central government. I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, the concept behind it is great, that they're scrutinizing, there's transparency, they're taking feedback from the families. But hand on heart, in all honesty, 99.99% if you ask a Muslim family if we want a burial done quickly and body released, they would say we prefer that rather than wait for the ME to scrutinize and to talk to the family.
I mean, we obviously, as a Muslim, we believe that if somebody passes away, that's Allah's will. Allah,
Absolutely.
So dictated it. Unka waqt aa gaya hai, so they're going to go. We're not looking for causes of death. We accept it, and that's partly why over the years despite all these processes we've navigated through, accepting the process that the government has set in motion. Obviously now they're going to change this process, and as Javed very eloquently explained, that the new introduction of the new ME sort of system is going to have an inbuilt delay. But you mentioned the two trusts where you've been working very, very closely with the two particular trusts where you've developed this very strong relationship between yourselves and your other colleagues, where if somebody passes away in the hospital, you can fairly regularly, fairly easily get at least access to the body, so you can take the body away, give the ghusl, do the kafan, everything else, and that's not universal around the country.
No, it isn't.
Now, I just want to let our viewers know that those two trusts, by the grace of Allah, are in this region.
They are.
It's the Mid Yorkshire NHS Trust, which
Correct.
is mainly Pinderfields Hospital.
Correct.
And the Bradford Teaching Hospitals Trust, which is Brad PRI.
Absolutely.
Now, these two trusts have got people working in there from the Muslim faith, and these are the chaplains, I presume, in Bradford as well.
It is the chaplains in Bradford and Pinderfields. And for our region, certainly the showcase or the role models are the Mid Yorkshire Trust, the Pinderfields, the two imams that relentlessly work all hours, and I mean all hours. Even when we know that we can't do anything early hours of morning at 3-4 o'clock, they've been there and available 24/7 for us. And there are times that we've been able to, many a time, to take a body from passing within the hour, and that's just unheard of in the past.
Now, I know the names of the two imams in Pinderfields, or Mid Yorkshire, which is Maulana Ilyas Dalal and Maulana Aslam Sidat. But I don't know who is the imams in the Bradford Mosque, Bradford Hospital. So I don't know if you know who they are. But what I want to say is, may Allah bless them and reward them in this world and the world hereafter. Because I've been told that people across the country are looking, Muslim communities are looking at how did this happen in this area, and how can we learn to have a similar system in place in our community as well. So may the examples of what these two imams have done be shared by those trusts with other trusts as well, and hopefully other Muslim communities will benefit. So this relation, I don't know whether you know the name of the imam in Bradford. I mean, I know there used to be a sister Shaheen Kosa who used to be chaplain, but she doesn't work there anymore. She's been on my program. I know she was instrumental during the COVID period in helping Muslim families go through navigate through the process.
The only trust where 24/7 in terms of the chaplains being available is the Mid Yorkshire Trust.
That's the Pinderfields Hospital.
Pinderfields Hospital. Bradford, obviously, the chaplains are there during the days, the normal hours, wherever to release, but they're not 24/7.
At church, right.
So the only trust, and we have to give recognition to these two imams. They turned this trust, we had a running battle with this trust, by the way. We deemed it as the worst trust.
Worst performing trust.
Worst performing trust in our minds.
The chair of the trust is a friend of mine. When I tell him this, I'm sure he'll be very pleased.
But you can give him the reassurance they are the role models. We refer everybody to that. Along with their bereavement team and the teams at this trust, and especially these imams that go over and beyond, regardless of the hour, 24/7, these gentlemen are there available to release the bodies. So
we could talk quite a bit about this, but there's going to be issues around if somebody wants, if the ME or the coroner decides, I want to do post-mortem. Now this MRI scanning, which in some places of the country, coroners accept an MRI scan, in other places they don't. No, we don't have much time. What is the latest on that in our region, in our area?
We currently only have one scanning facilities in Yorkshire.
In the whole of Yorkshire?
In our for adults.
Right.
So which is Bradford.
Right.
So whole of Calderdale, whole of Kirklees, whole of Leeds, and whole of Bradford, And obviously, with the exception of Bradford, which is free
Yes.
in terms of the MRI scans, everybody else pays. The process is far from speedy in the sense that it's time consuming. It can take anything up to 3 days from a scan.
Oh my goodness.
And the rate or the percentage is of finding a cause of death is in sort of lower 90s.
All right.
So when you scan and you don't find anything, then it's referred to a post-mortem.
All right.
In terms of children, we only have 2 facilities. One is in Leeds and one is in Sheffield, the Children's Hospital.
All right.
And they're the only 2, and predominantly it's the Sheffield one that gets utilised for all the areas. So you can imagine the backlog.
But is there our coroner, because I know Manchester, for example, the coroner has been accepting CT scanning, MRI scans as one evidence that he needs. Do we have coroners here who are willing to provide, to have that leeway as well?
Oh, absolutely. Our coroners in the eastern region and the western region in Yorkshire accept the CTI scans. They give the Muslims the opportunity to decide between having a post-mortem and a scan.
When it's a post-mortem, it's actually invasive surgery.
That's right.
Where they can cut the body and take organs out.
Absolutely. Now, it's probably wrong of me to say this because obviously it's early stages of infancy of talking. There is a new scanning facilities happening in the Mid Yorkshire Trust.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be talking about that on another occasion. And we're hoping that they'll open that to us.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
And that's the same that needs to happen nationally as well.
But can I just turn to GPs, because one of the issues that you mentioned is about GPs signing up to this process. Deaths in the home. The GPs are going to have to be fast on their feet to help the Muslim community go through this process fairly quickly. How important is their role in all of this? Because obviously they can say, I've seen the patient, and we're happy to issue a sort of death certificate or the cause of death. Or do you feel that they, because of the medical examiner will be scrutinizing their decision, do you think that GPs might be a bit reluctant?
I think GPs will be very reluctant. Why do I say that with confidence? Because at the moment, the probability, I keep repeating, is 51%. And we don't necessarily always get GPs coming forward. Even if they've seen patients in 28 days, they may say, well, I can't give a cause of death. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure.
Are they afraid that somebody might come back and sort of take them to court,
Well, there's that possibility, but I think the other bigger problem is going to be when somebody is scrutinizing and saying, well, I don't agree. So I'll give you some examples in the trials. A GP has categorically said the cause of death is X. The MEs disagreed and said, no, that's secondary. But the GP then said, well, no, I agree. I say it's this, and I'm adamant it's this. And after several hours of toing and froing and delays, the GP's put his hand up and go, you put what you want. That's not the answer. That's not what we want.
And in those circumstances, I presume the medical examiner will say, well, I want a post-mortem. Say to the coroner.
Well, if they don't agree, if they don't come to a cause of death whereby they agree, then it will get referred to the coroners. Now, the coroners in recent weeks in these trials, the number of cases have increased that we've dealt. This is supposed to sort of filter out that MEs are able to, with the GPs, with the hospitals, be able to get a cause of death that can be dealt fairly quickly. But we're seeing more and more referrals to the coroners. The coroners are already bogged down with work. And adding these adds even more delays. It could be 1 day, it could be 2 days. They're already dealing with cases that, at this moment in time, and then to put some more cases onto them, it's not going to help.
So, coming back to the GPs, what can we do to try and get the GPs to make sure that they're there to help the community? All right. I mean, are the people responsible for this new system, this new process? Are they providing the GPs with the information that they need on how their role is going to be crucial and important in all this process?
Well, they're me saying they are, but the facts are the GPs currently, because it's not statutory, are reluctant to engage because they find it, very monotonous, very sort of condescending to them. They don't feel that, it's something that they need to engage with. They see it's very time consuming. They feel that if they're the experts, they are now being scrutinized by another tier of bureaucracy So unless they're forced by law to engage, they're not necessarily engaging. And you can see that, nationally, the uptake by the surgeries at community GPs is not so high. And at the moment it's not statutory, so they don't have to engage. There have been a number of surgeries in our area that engaged and then dropped out because they felt that they can't deal with it, can't cope with it. What can we do with GPs? I think the MEs need to really engage with them. And secondly, what they've got to do is any families that are aware of potential palliative care proactively, end-of-life situations, proactively need their GPs to make the MEs aware so they can deal with it.
Or make sure that the patient has been seen by the GPs, within you said the 28-day might be this.
But going forward, that 28 days will change. So in any lifetime,
if the GP seen you.
A GP seen them, the patient, they'll be able to issue.
I mean, there are more sort of detailed issues that we could talk about. Just coming back, very important in my view. The relationship between the Muslim community and the MEs. I mean, how strong does that need to be?
It needs to be very strong because this is the law. This will come into force. And how we work together is very, very critical. That relationship, I mean, look, we've developed absolutely superb relationship with our coroners, our registrars, our cemetery teams. So we've done all that. We have direct contact out of hours. And these are numbers that, the funeral directors have. It's not for general public, for everybody. But currently, we don't have that contact. But we need to develop that contact from both sides.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Thank you, Javed, for coming here. Thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge, the information. I'm sure our viewers will be much, much wiser now. This is an issue that's going to hit every one of us. Now, we're coming back on this issue again in the next few weeks. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting. We need to make sure we're up to speed with all this. I hope, we will allude to this, as I say, we come back. In the meantime, I wish you all the best. Ask you for du'as, particularly for Javed and his colleagues, and for me and everybody else. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.